Welcome one and all to tonight's public forum. We have one speaker, Mr. Ian Coghlan, who's going to address us to talk about a structure plan for Georgia. Ian, the mic's yours.
Thank you, Bradley Shire Council, councillors and management for allowing us to talk to you. I'll be brief within the 3 minutes. Let's talk about the opportunity for a structured plan to be developed for Georgia and other villages too. And we understand that could only follow the plan already been done for Polwood. We see it's a win-win situation in terms of the benefit of Greater Shire, in terms of residents, for the benefit of residents of Georgia, and the benefit of people who might one day come and live in this Shire, particularly in a place like Georgia, so beautifully located to Albury and at the foothills of the iconic Tabletop Mountain. Georgia has a great ambience with the trees, etc. Plus, it's got essential infrastructure there now, such as a general store, a post office, a school, recreational facilities, and a general store. But importantly, it's also only 12 to 15 minutes from Lavington or 20 minutes from Albury. So it's close to Albury. And if you look at the figures presented in a plan that Greater Shire did in 2019, 30% of the workforce of Greater Shire work in Albury. So Georgia is just beautifully placed to work the Shire together and coordinate things. But at this stage, Georgia lacks a structure plan or a vision for the future. The last plan that we've seen in terms of the layout of the village was done more than 120 years ago. Virtually private motor vehicles, long drop loos in the backyard, etc., etc. But on that plan, and it is very well laid out, there are 131 residential blocks. Now, only about 40 or 50 of those 130 have any building on them. There is an opportunity, and we're simply presenting that opportunity. And I think opportunities can easily be spoken of. They're really only realised when you have a plan, structure plan, and from, planning so that we know where we are now, what we've got, where we want to get to, and how we might get there. The residents want to work with council. They had a recent community meeting. Over 100 people signed a petition asking for a plan, and that 100 is vetted so that they're all authentic. We simply ask that consideration be given to a plan and that we all benefit as a result. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Questions for Ian?
I've just got one question. So you had a meeting of 100 people. I'm just wondering, is there likely to be some sort of a development committee or something like that formed from that group to actually guide and liaise with the council? Because otherwise we don't have any community buy-in. It's very difficult to get a plan that suits the current residents there.
Thank you for the question. The meeting actually had about 30 people. The survey was signed by 139 people. But when we went through and audited that, 2 people were signed twice, and some people weren't residents of Georgia. So it came back to a net 104 or 5 signatures of Georgia residents. Now, a working committee has been formed out of that, and that committee seriously wants to be able to work with Greater Shire. There are a lot of talented people in the community, including people who have been seriously involved in residential development in Melbourne, etc. And these people are really keen that we work with Greater Shire.
Further questions?
Thank you, William, for taking the time. It's Matt said that having a committee is a great start, and we could start putting down some of the thoughts and ideas already. That helps to get it well underway. To working this.
Thank you very much. Thank you, councillor.
That's it. I'll declare tonight's meeting duly open and ask councillor Jill to lead us in prayer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all of your blessings. We ask for your strength and guidance throughout this meeting and thereafter, as we look to serve the residents of this shire. We ask for clear thinking and sincere hearts as we approach the business matters we will be discussing shortly. We ask for your blessings upon this meeting, each participant, and the work and people they represent. Amen.
Thank you, councillor Jill. We move on to the minutes of the main meeting. Moved by councillor Wilkins, with a seconder. Councillor Parker. Any corrections or comments? If not, I'll put the resolution. All in favour? Those against? Carried all the way. Move on to the action report from the minutes. Any questions? If there are questions, please state the number on the page.
Page 26019, just to read the waiting, with the common now bench and readings for advertising in the distance. Economy with
it has, we're about to issue it out for, with a number of other properties for police, through an agent.
Further questions or comments? If not, on page.
Page 2, the first one is capital works. Not in this typo, this the progress means 0, but it's completed, and then we'll follow up with the CFO. Double done, just look.
That on page 2.
At the top of the page, to the capital works, that's what a code number.
I think there's just a confusion there, actually possibly shouldn't be on that report, councillor, but we'll certainly take that on notice and check. Yeah, it should be, yeah.
Another simple one on page 7, the 6445, it should be a transfer of land from Crown Land to council, not the other way around. It's just a simple English mistake or whatever it is nowadays. Yeah, but no further comments. We'll move on to the agenda on the day. There's a Merrill minute there which I'll formally move. To be received and noted. I don't think it has to be seconded. We'll move on to the first item on the business paper, the environment planning.
I'll move that recommendation.
The block of Walla Walla. For those who don't realise where it is, it's on the corner of Cummings Road and Lookout Way. 20-acre block that was purchased probably 4 years ago at a deceased estate. Sold with new developers. 4 or 5 acre blocks under the old term, or 4 2-acre blocks. They moved to second. All in favour? Those against? They're carried. Second item is the draft Waiting Room Council S712 Mixed Development Consent Levy Development Contribution Plan 2023. And moved by Councillor Parker. Second, Councillor O'Neill. Comments?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Mayor. I'm just concerned that given that at our recent workshop, we started formulating a criteria. There's a number of these projects that haven't gone through that criteria process, and I don't believe will potentially meet that criteria. And I'm not really keen to go ahead and put this up for people to comment on, given that that there's no guarantee that all of these will actually meet that criteria. And I feel that if we put it up, we're potentially giving communities false hope, like that they can see that my project. They can see that my project is up there, it's like beauty on getting the funds. When in actual fact, once it goes out for feedback, it might get completely taken off. And so I would actually prefer to, well, I'm actually prepared to move an amendment that we actually workshop this with our new criteria before it actually goes out on public display, because I don't want communities to be given false hope that they're going to get money when in actual fact that they might not.
We have an amendment moved by Councillor Linda. Have we got a seconder?
So just to clarify that amendment is that the ordinance is deferred and brought back to council after the projects have been further investigated. Yeah, so that's the amendment that's been moved by council, isn't it?
Just to comment.
Yeah, so that the item is deferred to allow further investigation of the projects and be brought back to council at a later date. Okay, did I capture that, councillor?
Yeah, thank you.
So with that amendment being moved, then we need a second.
I'll second that.
Second, Councillor Hick. Matters open for discussion, either speaker for the recommendation or the speaker for the amendment.
Just a question, Mr. Mayor. Is that new criteria that we worked on a couple of weeks back? When is that when was that meant to start to take place? Because some of these projects have been on the list for probably 5 or more years. A lot of these things, how far back do we go with each item? Or was it meant to start from like the new financial year or whatever, just for picking a date? Yeah.
I think through you, Mr. Chair, the process at the moment was simply to develop an investment criteria that can apply as a council process for council laws. So it really comes down to how councils want to apply that. So if you wanted a specific date that it came in, given us in a draft format at the moment, and we're still formulating the process, that really is a question for councillors. We could workshop it for another couple of months and have it implemented or applied whenever is appropriate, really. So it was really just a guiding tool to assist councils. So if there's pre-existing projects that you just feel should be supported, then I'm in your hands as to how that's approached.
So just to follow on with that, the second one too is they don't sort of have a time frame that money needs to be spent, but is that other allocated money on a time frame? That if we defer this, then it's going to be a few more months or whatever to get back on the agenda. Is that going to affect any of these projects with what's been allocated at the moment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe so. I think some of these projects have been earmarked for some time, and certainly the 712 funding is different to other sources of funding. That's grant funding. This is development contribution money that comes to council every time the development consent is issued. It probably ranges between $100,000 and $200,000 a year. So it's not a huge amount of money each year that is collected. The government confers that council doesn't sit on it. councils don't sit on it indefinitely, but they've never set a timeline, we've got to set spend within X. But the message is pretty clear, they don't want councils to hoard development contributions.
Thank you.
Further
Thank you. Yes, sorry, that's me. Yes, I agree totally that this was a draft, wasn't set in stone with that. And I agree with Councillor Shook also that most of these projects have been on the list for quite a few years and have been put back. And I guess if you look at the need category that we looked at, a lot of these are definitely a very strong need. So I would like to see this put back again in another month.
Further comments?
Mr. Mayor, sorry. Not seeing today again.
Yes. My apologies, Councillor Parker.
It's okay. I was under the assumption that we were working on those that criteria moving forward, and that we did have quite a lengthy discussion about these projects, and most of them have been on that list for a long time. And if we are collecting section 712 monies, we need to spend it where the developments, you know, where the projects are happening, you know, where DAs, you know, are coming into the community. So I'm sorry, Councillor Pinder, I disagree.
Further comments? Mover of the motion wishes to reply. You're the mover of the amendment, so.
Yeah, my biggest concern is that I've got to go back to the people who have voted me in, and people who have actually spoken to me from other wards within the Shire. And the question they ask me is, how come different communities get 2 and maybe 3 bites of the pie when other communities there aren't listed? And Rodri is a classic example of that tonight. So that's why I'd just like to see that we actually take our time in doing this and doing it as well as we can. Thank you.
Further comments? Only comment I'd make is that we've got a big list, but there's not much money. So people who might see that list, they could be like me, very old, when they get a chance to get some money, because if it's 200,000 a year, as the planner said, that's the best years of growth. It doesn't provide for many projects. But anyway, I'll put the or move the motion like the writer reply. Sorry.
Who was the moment? I think it was myself.
Yes, I can't.
Yeah, no, I'm.
Yeah. Right, I'll put the amendment first. Those in favour of the amendment? Those against? Balance? The motion stands. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried.
We might just have to take a moment. Me just to allow our minute taker to catch up, because there's two motions there. Did you get both of those with Marita?
So that's the second one. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was the amendment, but then the council voted on the actual motion itself.
I was for the amendment, switch mine up across.
Yeah, so we're just gonna. So Marita, Councillor Quinn was for the amendment. So we've got a correction before we move on. And we're missing Forest.
Missing somebody.
Now we've got everybody.
Yeah,
Okay,
very good. We'll pull up.
yep, we're here. Thank you.
We move on to the corporate and community service. Number one, the delivery program for 22 to 26.
So, Mr. Mayor.
And moved by councillor Meyer, seconded by councillor Hicks. Questions, comments, councillor Meyer?
No question or comment. No question or comment, Mr. Mayor, except to say it's had a long run of debate and discussion. And I believe the motion should be adopted on the basis that we do have the option down the track to amend items if need be.
Thank you. Very correct, councillor Meyer. There's a review in September. Yeah. Further comments? If not, I'll put the resolution. All in favour? Those against? Carried all right. Number two is the determination of local government remuneration tribunal with the mayors and council fees.
I'll move the recommendation.
The recommendation on page 36 has been moved by councillor Hicks, second, councillor Linda.
I have an amendment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, councillor Wilton.
Mr. Smith will put it up. There we go. The amendment reads, can I read it?
Please, read.
Mayor and council fees be increased by 50% of the difference between the current fees payable in 2022-23 and the maximum fee payable under the new rural large council classification, plus an indexation of 4.7 on the 22-23 fees. And part two, in accordance with point one above, fee payable to councils was set at $15,760 per annum, effective 1 July 23. Number three, in addition to the adopted council fee above, the fee payable to the mayor be set at $34,000 per annum, effective 1 July 23, of which $5,450 be paid to the deputy mayor, balance payable to the mayor $28,110. And number four, an allowance of $5,450 be paid to the deputy mayor from the 23-24 mayoral allowance.
Thank you, councillor Wilton. We've got a second for
Have this second.
second, councillor Parker. Matters open for discussion.
Can I speak to it
Yes.
now, Mr. Mayor? Look, I don't have this, I don't make this movement lightly. We've been moved into a new category of council. We've gone from rural to rural large, which provides the opportunity for us to increase our fees. Now, obviously, IPART's recognised that we are eligible for and maybe deserve to be put into a high category of council. I think our councillors work pretty damn hard. We've got a big council area. We've had an increase in residents, population. There is a fair bit to look after by 9 councillors. I think we do a pretty darn good job. But my main reason for putting this up is that I feel that if we don't take the opportunity and do it in two bites, so one would be this forthcoming year, the next one would be the following year, we'll end up being left behind if you don't take up the increase when it's available, or don't have the courage to take it up. And we end up just dragging the chain and we just get left behind. And I don't think that's a very good look. It might not be a very good look to be taking up an increase in fees either. But I think we've got an election coming up in 12 months, over 12 months' time. we'd be hoping to attract new councillors from across our shire. And I think if we don't get our fees up where it's somewhere reasonable, we'll be lucky if we get any people who would want to put their hands up other than old age pensioners like me and you, Mr. Mayor. And I don't think that's a very smart move. Up there end of the lesson.
Thanks for the compliment. The old is true, Councillor Wilton, that I'm not a pensioner. At this stage, I can't foresee the future, but that part of the agenda is not there. Speakers for the motion or for the amendment?
I think we've already had a speaker for the amendment, so I will speak against the amendment if that's acceptable. Look, I firmly believe that, and I've always said this, that I don't believe that we should be even allowed to set our own fees. If we get given a pumpkin down the street, we've got to report that at our returns every time and that sort of thing. So, and further to that, admittedly, what Councillor Wilton said, attracting new people, that's okay, but I don't think that to become a councillor, if you look at the councillor fee and think, well, I'm going to get onto that for a second job and a second income is really quite the right way to encourage people to come on board. And also, given the current financial situation, we've had a fair bit of time juggling the, getting a balanced budget we've had. And whilst this might only seem like a modest increase, it's going to impact on the budget going forward. And we need to show the ratepayers that we're rather sharp on the money and that sort of thing. I don't know if we're in a particularly good position at the moment as a council to be upping our fees any more than the 4.5% or what it was suggested in the previous amendment. So that's what I believe.
Further speakers either for the recommendation or for the amendment or opposing one or the other? Yes, O'Neill.
It's sort of neither for or against it. It's rather let's do this in 12 months' time for the next election. Leave it as our budget is at the moment.
Okay, that's for a speaker for the recommendation. Further speakers?
I don't think there's a councillor here that doesn't confirm the small retainer we get for being on council, but again, Councillor Wilton, we discussed this last week at the budget and where do we find the extra cash? We could defer this for 12 months, work towards getting in place in the budget prior to the next council elections, and that might alleviate what your suggestion is about attracting the right people to council.
Can I just ask a question, Mrs. Smith? Is it possible we get our travel allowance for council workshops and meetings and official, but could that include the community meetings we also go to?
Oh, no, yeah.
To another comment, I agree, there's good points on both sides, but really, I don't personally, I feel sort of guilty accepting a pay rise because we've been spending months and months tightening the budget belt, and we're sort of just moseying along quite well. And the other thing, it's okay that IPART have recognised us and put us into a different category, but does that come with a different category of allowances from the government? You know, unfortunately, that doesn't happen. But it'd be great if they decided to up what they delegate to us from higher up because of the extra load that we have of increasing in size and whatever. So yeah, maybe just deferring it. But there's good and bad points made all round the table. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I want to make one comment. We did go up into the new category, and we did get a 1% differential on our rate peg due to population growth. So the base rate peg was 3.7, ours was 4.7, we got an extra 1% for population growth. Now, whether that population growth was taken into account when they moved us into a rural large category, I don't know. But just to answer your question about, does it mean that we got extra money? We did get that 1% additional on the rate peg, but whether the two things correlate, I don't know. But it won't make any difference. Let's put it this way: it won't make any difference to our financial assistance grant or anything like that. It's not it's not going to flow into that where we do get a very large chunk of money.
It was more what I was thinking, the bags grant, that share of that condition bucket at the beginning between those people passed on to the states, but if that's where we need, instead of putting our wages up and then putting the the residents right up, it sort of goes around.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to make a comment. Somebody has represented councillors and local government in the negotiations that arrive at these fees. If we don't show some consideration in looking towards accepting some of the rise that's been proposed, what do they do it for? For a long time, everybody has been complaining about the work of a councillor is not remunerated properly, but never ever will be. But a small token rise like this, particularly given the new category we're in, is worthwhile thinking about earnestly, because somebody has stood up there and represented us and won that game. And I don't think we should knock them in the face by not taking some of them.
So Councillor Meyer, are you speaking for the motion or for the amendment?
I'm for the amendment.
Further speakers?
Could I ask a question, please, Mr Mayor? With the proposed amendment, Mr Smith, could you inform us of how much that would change per year? Like how much it would impact on our budget per year? It changes like 50% now and 50%.
Yeah,
so 20,000.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the cost of the amendment is in round figures 27,000 for this current financial year.
And our budget's 35 million?
No, sorry, the 27,000 is that would be the budget impact. Okay,
Yeah.
what the motion is based on what we have in the budget now. So obviously adopting the motion, adopting the recommendation would have no budget impact. Adopting the amendment would impact 27,000.
My only comment is that I support the recommendation. The amendment does have a lot going for it. But from my point of view, I'd be highly embarrassed by it for the simple reason that every day of the week I tell people that we haven't enough money. It might be their pothole, or it could be their rough netball courts, but it never stops. And that's a fact, we haven't got enough money. Now, it's a small amount, but personally I'd be highly embarrassed. That's why I'll be voting for the recommendation. Further comments one way or the other? If not, I'll put the amendment. Those in favour of the amendment? Councillor Meyer, Councillor Parker, Councillor Wilk. Those against? The rest against? I'll put the recommendation. Those in favour? The recommendation. Those against? Councillor Wilk.
So just check for a moment. Maria, have you got the?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So you know about the original recommendation?
The original one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got that recorded as to who voted for and against?
So it's just the opposite of the motion, the amendment.
We'll just check that.
So, yeah, for everyone against. Against, and everyone else is for.
Yeah, that's over against the
Yeah,
amendment.
and everyone else was for, yeah.
I'll fix that.
Right, we move on to the engineering items of the day. The roads to recovery, the Malcontein drains.
Recommendation.
Been moved by councillor Forrest, seconded by councillor Hicks. Further comments? My comment is a tight comment, will be done, we're going to start, Mr. Engineer.
Once we get this money transferred, I'll have to get on the contractors.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put the resolution all in favour. Those against, declare it carried all the way. Number 2 is the Uranus Street drain. Still part of it, isn't it?
The transfer of town land to that, yeah.
Yeah, transfer of Crown land to public. road.
Second that.
Moved by councillor Wilson, and seconded by councillor
Shall.
Fielding. All those people being notified? And the adjoining neighbours? None of the references to far away properties like that.
No, we've checked all that. It's fine.
Put the recommendation all in favour. Those against, carried all the way. Item referred to close council.
So moved.
Councillor Hicks, second councillor Parker. All in favour? Those against, carried. Part B items.
Can I move part B, C, and D, please?
Then moved by councillor Hicks, part B, C and D. Read the second one. Councillor O'Neill. Any questions? Just an observation, the interest rates continually moving up, which is very good for our investment. No further comments?
An interesting statistic with the tourism and promotions area, the websites that are the top 10 pages or top 5 pages at least. For the visit rated U1, natural wonders and Wyman Ferry, Colcan, Each Stay and Explore. And then tabletop reserve, Morgan's Lookout and Billabong, Billabong Creek. So it's interesting that they're people are looking a bit further out on the highways.
Yeah.
Very hard to go in there on natural wonder.
Well, the question is, Council will, it's been closed for 6 or 7 weeks.
It's, I don't know, it's broken. Being renovated and it's running again. Well, there's not too many of those around the state. You built our natural wonder. Might have been built on that.
Any further comments? If not, I'll put those collectively all in favour, those against. Clear it carried. We move into the confidential section of the day.
So moved.
So after we go, we can leave.
I'll second it.
Moved by councillor Hicks, seconded by councillor O'Neill. All in favour? Those against? Clear it carried. Somebody move that we deal with the item of the day. Councillor Parker, seconded. Councillor Forrest. All in favour? Clear it carried. So I know the recommendations in front of you.
Move recommendation.
Been moved by councillor Hicks, seconded by councillor Parker. That valuation
Just
is,
hang on a sec, so that's not the right recommendations, that's, sorry, Mr. Mayor. We might just have to go, so we resolve, so Hicks, councillor Hicks and O'Neill resolved to go into closed.
Yep.
And then, yeah, we just got ahead of ourselves because we're resolving to go back out into open council with the one that Marita was So who moved the motion?
No, that's the motion to deal with the confidential.
Yeah, that was a motion to deal with.
Okay, the park.
Okay, that's what we got out of sync. Sorry, it was just that we were one ahead of ourselves, and if I didn't get it now, it would be an interesting conversation tomorrow.
Yeah, yes.
Beautiful. And now we're up to the actual motion itself, which I think you'd already called for, hadn't you?
Yeah.
So if we could just, so was it, who moved the, yeah, beautiful, brilliant, okay, right, so now we're back in sync now, councillors, we can carry on.
Now, the question is, the original value that was offered was quite a lot less than what's valued at now.
That's correct, well, yes, it had, the market has definitely moved.
Can you tell us? We move out of confidential committees, councillor Williams, second, councillor Forrest, all in favour? Now we're going secretary, all right?
Yep, we're fine. So the only thing now, Mr. Mayor, is just the final motion to adopt the resolution outside of the
During the confidential section, we decided to put 2 blocks on the market from the ginger industrial estate. So moved by councillor Wilson, second councillor Collins, all in favour? Carried. Looks like everybody's in a hurry to get home to football. I don't know why, because Queensland's going to win.
Stop it.
Thank you for your attendance.